At the request of cherished congregants, as a matter of inclusion rather than one of ego, copies of this sermon will be available for those who wish as you leave. I will also trade the naming rights for my second born for a dramatic sip of water right now, if anyone has. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. Do you pride yourself on being logical, analytic, and objective? Or maybe you're better described as intuitive, thoughtful, emotionally in touch. Do you prefer science and reason to the arts and creativity? Or does boundless imagination define your thought process better than logic and equations? Are you more Sheldon than Penny? Or more Frankie than Grace? Would you describe yourself as a left-brained thinker? Or would others instantly recognize that you are more right-brained? This dichotomy between the sides of our brain is ever present in our society. Facebook quizzes and Pinterest photos, self-help books, and even scientific theories that try to explain gender all rely on the notion that the brain's two hemispheres are involved in different modes of thinking, and that one frequently dominates the other. This idea really needs to die. So, without question, the two hemispheres of our brain do engage in different kinds of information processing. In the vast majority of cases, however, these two hemispheres are in constant communication, and they work together. In other words, we're not right-brained or left-brained, we're simply brained. To think otherwise, to accept the pseudoscience of being left or right-brained, is not only misguided, but actively harmful. By attributing certain ways of thinking to one side of the brain, and by suggesting that people can only excel on one side, we are inadvertently making the case that certain cognitive abilities are innate, they're hardwired, they're fixed. Girls will never be good at math, for instance. Or groundbreaking doctors will never excel at bedside manner, are some of the tragic and wrong consequences that come from left brain, right brain thought. Yes, of course, there are indeed individual differences in cognitive strengths, but the idea that people are left-brained or right-brained really needs to die. While we're at it, the term rocket scientist, as in it doesn't take a rocket scientist to, that idea needs to die as well. This cliche imposes a boundary of unattainable brilliance that separates the scientist from everyone else and subconsciously discourages kids from getting involved. As Dr. Victoria Wyatt writes, I mean no offense to real rocket scientists. Some of my best friends are rocket scientists. And that's exactly the point. They're real people inhabiting the real world. And with enough work and discipline, we can become rocket scientists too. Perhaps there are actually a large number of commonly accepted ideas that are inadvertently impeding progress and that are ready for a permanent retirement. Calculus, for example. Not the study of the area under the curve, but the university hazing ritual and the gateway to degrees that will never, ever, 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 ever use calculus again. I can't be the only person in this room who almost failed calculus. I know you're out there with me. These ideas and many more are featured in the 2015 best-selling book, This Idea Must Die: Scientific Theories That Are Blocking Progress. Once these ideas have taken root in our imagination, they become difficult to displace, even when they're shown to be erroneous or superseded by something better. It's no wonder that physicist Max Planck suggested that science only progresses one funeral at a time. Yet, even after defenders of old practices go to their final resting places, writes Dr. Alex Holcomb in the book, the antiquated traditions sometimes endure. A policy doesn't die until someone kills it. This Yom Kippur, as we meditate on our personal transgressions and what is holding us back from being the people we need to be in 5778, we would do well to apply the same introspection to our community. Ideas and policies holding us back, restricting our potential, don't die unless someone kills them. And we have some serious house cleaning to do. Some 3,000 years worth, to be exact. Our reluctance to do so in the Jewish community makes sense. We're a people taught by culture and tradition to respect our elders and to know that wisdom comes only through age and experience. This is true. And the Jewish community needs to be more nimble today than at any time in the past if we're going to cope with technological disruption and rapidly changing demographics. So let's do this. What ideas in Jewish tradition also need to die? First, I would posit, is the statement that our synagogue welcomes interfaith couples. Trust I have your attention now. At first blush, not only is there nothing wrong with this idea, but it's actually a statement of our highest values as a community. Of course, we want to welcome people of all stripes. Those who are intermarried and those who are inmarried, those who are once married, those who are never married. We want to be audaciously hospitable, and this statement actually gets in our way. We welcome interfaith couples was born during a divisive time in Reform Judaism's past when few rabbis would officiate at interfaith ceremonies. Saying, we welcome interfaith couples, but we're not going to sanctify your marriage, was an impossible dance that damaged many Reform Jews' connection to their synagogue and its clergy. It's a question that's now settled. A clear majority of Reform rabbis and virtually all of the next generation recognize that the only way to ensure Jewish continuity, to bring people closer to Torah, is to embrace the people they embrace, rather than turning them away. We've long known this. We've long done this. And it's time to retire the slogan that marginalize, that others, so many in our community. When we say we welcome interfaith couples, we're creating an in-group and an out-group that hasn't been true since the founding of this congregation. Our synagogue, Reform synagogues, are interfaith couples, and gay couples, and interracial couples, and in-married couples, and unmarried individuals. We're stronger for it, and it's time that our language reflected it. Okay, so it's a principle statement not well suited for Twitter, but the same is going to be true for anything worth reading. A second idea that I would posit needs to die is the belief that a mitzvah is a good deed. Born perhaps of Reform Judaism's emphasis on ethical mitzvot over those that are more technical in nature, this sterile translation threatens to undermine the core concept in Jewish tradition, mitzvah, good deed. While the mitzvah can indeed be good or beneficial, we do good deeds because they seem nice. We do good deeds when it's convenient for us to do so. We do good deeds because we have some extra money this month, or because it makes us happy to help others. Mitzvot, commandments, obligations, reflexes, we do even when we're tired, even when we don't feel like it, even when doing so comes at a great personal cost, because it's at the core of our being to constantly strive for the realization of our highest values. An embrace of Jewish life is an embrace of mitzvot. When coupled with Reform Judaism's expanding repertoire and ethicization of ritual, mitzvot serve to connect us to the world beyond ourselves. They're the actions that habituate us to say yes, to unflinchingly do the right thing, to connect with our God, to realize we're not alone, whether it feels good to us as individuals in that moment or not. Finally, we need to talk about something vital to the future of Reform Judaism. The idea that the Reform movement is a catch-all for the unaffiliated, for the avowedly secular, for the simply lazy in the Jewish community really needs to die. On one hand, I kind of like it. So many marginally affiliated Jews casting their lot with us inflates our numbers and gives us considerable clout as the largest movement in American Jewish life. On the other hand, it's difficult to maintain intellectual rigor and moral clarity while we're leaving open the doors for those for whom apathy is the ultimate arbiter of their faith. The Reform movement has long struggled to square the circle of emphasizing both individual autonomy and a sense of commandedness. Being told to do something makes us bristle, as when we were teenagers being told to clean our rooms. Yet we endeavor to live our lives with God as a covenant partner. Reform Judaism operates in the gray liminal space of holding us accountable for our personal autonomy. It requires intention and sacrifice and action to continue to be a verb, reform, rather than a noun, reformed. I would trade scores of people from the ranks of Reform Judaism to never again hear the words, "I don't keep kosher, I'm reform." A statement whose very logic is antithetical to Reform Judaism. Reform Judaism can't be an excuse. It must be a source of enrichment and empowerment. Music to my ears? I don't keep kosher. My religious tradition respects my autonomy to make knowledge-based choices, and after careful consideration, I've decided that while I must be conscientious about what I put in my body, the rules around kashrut actually obstruct rather than further my spiritual elevation in the modern day. Again, too long for Twitter, but everything worth reading actually is. For the Reform ethos of choice through knowledge to survive, to be anything other than our ancestors' choices when they possessed the knowledge, we need to affirm our core principles of ethical monotheism and sacred obligation. We need to affirm that we have core principles, even if it comes at the expense of excluding those who disagree with us. I could go on and on and on and on, but there are only so many soapboxes I'm willing to stand upon in one given sermon. Once an idea has taken root in our imagination, it becomes difficult to shake, even when it's shown to be erroneous, superseded, and detrimental. Small wonder that physicist Max Planck suggested science can only progress one funeral at a time. The same phenomena is all too true in the Jewish community as well. Commonly held ideas that are actually restricting our potential don't die until someone kills them. And we have some serious house cleaning to do. As we meditate on our personal transgressions and on what is holding us back from being the people we need to be in 5778, we would do well to apply that same introspection to our larger community. I hope the three ideas that I raised this morning, that we need to move beyond a previous generation's fight over welcoming interfaith couples to recognizing that we are interfaith couples, that mitzvot are not good deeds to be performed to earn a gold star, but obligation toward the realization of the world in which we want to live, and that Reform Judaism thrives on action and not apathy. I hope these ideas spark some ideas in you as well. I hope you'll join me in the chapel following services this morning to brainstorm collectively and perhaps to allow all of those soapboxes that didn't make this list to come out. Or perhaps further debate this concept at your respective break the fast this evening. As together, we must ensure Judaism holds its core values while shedding these harmful ideas quickly enough to survive another 3,000 years. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will.